This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
Five minutes till Skynet. This is a countdown. KF5JJ.
Afterglow Movie Net, Saturday, 10:30 p.m., W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Skynet has now taken over the airwaves. Does anyone need to use a repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? If so, come now. Nothing heard. This is KF5JHA. My name is Chaz. I'll be your net control for this edition of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night for the last, I think, 13 years anyway, at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy and space, and those kind of things. The net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with a priority or emergency traffic may enter this net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from your net control. That's Chaz, me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions like this. This is KF5JHA. If you're not hearing me, you probably don't know this. This weekly net operates on a frequency of 146.88 megahertz with a private line tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using W5FC-R station ID or the Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, live audio and video links are available online. Go to w5fc.org right now for that complete list. Now remember to tell others about this very popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. Now the net is about 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. I'm not going to go over that. You know what they are if you're familiar with Skynet. If not, you'll find out over the course of the next 90 minutes. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. All right, let's start with low power and short time check-ins. Here's what I always do. I want you to give me your call sign phonetically and slowly, your name and your location. This is just for low power and short time check-ins. Come for the first 3 check-ins, then we'll do them in segments of 3 after that too.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power.
Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob Dallas, low power and short time.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WV4MFI Ted Dallas low power.
Well, thank you. I've got Ted and Jacob and Gus all checked into Skynet. Thank you for checking in slowly and phonetically with your call sign and your name. I appreciate that. Come now, the next 3. If you are low power and short time, Come with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Alpha, Uniform David on an HT in Mesquite.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Lima, Lima, KF5 ELL, Huey, Richardson, Texas.
Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie, Delta, Cody in Dallas, low power.
Thank you for the next three. Cody, Huey, and David. Welcome to Skynet. David, you're my neighbor. I'm also in Mesquite. Oh, wait, I'm also on Planet Earth. That's what I usually check in with, is Planet Earth. All right. We'll try one more time, see if we've got any more low power and short time check-in. If there are, please come now, slowly, phonetically, with your call sign and your name and your location. And we'll take the next three. Well, hearing none, here's what I'm going to do differently. I'm going to have Echolink to check in right now, and then we'll go to general check-in. So if you're on Echolink and you'd like to check in via the audio, so, but if you want to come in on audio, please come now with your call sign and your name and your location. Echolink only, please.
Is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-ray, Kelly in point.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu, Whiskey, J. No effort.
Okay, Jay and Kelly, I've got you checked in over on Echolink. I see Rich. Maybe Rich wants to check in over radio frequency. We'll see if that's the case. But this is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, and we're running check-ins for Skynet. All right, come now. If you're a regular check-in, you don't need to be on Echolink, or you don't need to be low power or short time. But once again, we'll do these in packets of three. The next three people come now slowly with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Kilo Charlie 5, Romeo Alpha, India. Charles, here in Dallas.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in Dallas.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Whiskey 9, Victor Papa Uniform, Sam and Alan.
Okay, we've got four here in a row. Charles, I've got you checked in. Brenda, I've got you checked in. And Tony, I've got you checked in. I believe the last one was Sam. Sam, could you come back with your call sign slowly and phonetically, please?
Roger that. This is Whiskey 9, Victor Papa Uniform, W9VBU, Sam and Alan.
Thank you so much. Okay, now the next three people come now with your call sign slowly and phonetically, and your name and your location that you're transmitting from. We're up to 14 people so far that's checked into Skynet.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot.
This is Cruise Arlington. And this is Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwell, AG 5 p.m.
Rich, I've got you checked in from Rockwell, my former home. Okay, I know this call sign, but I didn't get it all written down. I know they're a neighbor of mine in Mesquite. Your call sign ends with OF. Could you repeat your call sign and your name, please?
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot. Clay. Lima Alpha Yankee. Mesquite.
Clay, I think I've got you pulled in. Thank you so much. Okay, there was a person that tried to check in after Clay. It was mostly noise. Could you please come now slowly, phonetically, with your call sign and your name and your location once again? Okay, I'm not sure who that was. Okay, please come now with your call sign phonetically, slowly, your name and your location. The next three people, please. We're doing these in packets of 3 so I can have time to write them all down. I only do this like 4, maybe 5 times a year.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington.
This is
Okay, let's pause right there. I've got you, Cruz. Thank you so much. The next person was all static, all noise. Please come now again with your call sign slowly, phonetically, your name and your location. Okay, maybe they'll check in again. All right, the next group of 3, please come now with your call sign slowly, phonetically, your name and your location, please.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom in Louisville.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Well, thank you so much. I have right now James and Tom. Oh, Tom is, of course, either the father or maybe we call him the grandfather of Skynet. And Virginia, thank you so much. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to check into this edition of Skynet? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Call sign slowly and phonetically, please. Thank you. All right, well, that's a healthy check-in. So let me see. I think I've got somebody. No, I think we've got everyone on Echolink checked in, so I guess we're good for that one. All right, I guess we're going to pause for the moment for check-ins. Let's see now. Do we have any general announcements for the evening? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or general interest to license.
November, Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey.
Well, Tony, you won. Jay, you'll get to be next. But Tony, come now with your announcement.
Well, thank you, Chaz. An exciting day because one month ends and another month begins. So although it may not seem like October yet, given how hot it is, we're starting with all sorts of nets this weekend. We, of course, had TechNet earlier, and we have Skynet now. We have the Afterglow movie discussion coming up at about 10:30, plus or minus 5 minutes, featuring Prisoners of the Lost Universe. I can't really understand it, but it is definitely a movie that exists and was apparently actually filmed with actors in it. Tomorrow, though, is October 1st. Kerblam! Instantly, it's a first Sunday. So we have a meeting on the air at 7 and a Racey's Trading Net tomorrow at 8. Then, of course, we have Ham Fixins on Monday at 7 and a Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting this Tuesday. We're going to be talking about remote station operation. More details, of course, at w5fc.org. I hope to hear you at all our nets and see you at our meetings on Tuesday. NT5TM.
Thank you so much, Tony. KG5BZWJ, you're up for your announcement, please.
Hello, this is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. I'm just announcing 2 Hamfests are coming up. The first of all is the Belton Hamfest, which is next week. I'm not particularly involved in that, but you might be interested in that, the Belton Hamfest. And then, but the thing I'm involved in, the Parker County Hamfest, which is going to be at Cornerstone Community Church near Springtown. It's a joint amateur radio club of Parker County and Tri-County Club Hamfest. There will be there'll be both indoor outdoor swap meet. We do have a lecture. We're actually looking for more lectures if you would like to give a lecture on anything ham radio related. And then, of course, there will be door prizes like, well, we have a flyer on, I know it's on the W5PC website, probably also on Tri-County. I haven't checked them yet. That, just to be clear, Saturday, October 14th, 8 to noon, Cornerstone Community Church, 2233 East Highway 199, talk-in 147.16. I don't have to say everything here, but I think I've pretty much covered it. So thank you very much for your time. This is KG5BZW.
Thank you so much, Jay. I actually got my start by getting an HT radio at the Irving Hamfest. I think it was in February after I'd gotten my ham license in December. So thank you so much. I think those things are important. Does anybody need a fill or have a question about anything that Tony or Jay said on their announcements? Come now with your call sign if you have a need for a fill or have a question. All quiet on the Western Front. Okay. So, let's see now. There's all sorts of other things. I could sit here and talk about all sorts of nets. Tony talked about a few of them. We're going to skip that whole list. It would take me several minutes, and we're going to spend that on Skynet instead. If you want to find out about all the amateur radio nets that happen on this frequency, go to w5fc.org. That'll tell you that. Next up on my list of things to do is something about afterglow. What the heck is that? I think I'm going to call on Tom, KE5ICX. Can you tell me something about what this thing is called afterglow?
Why, thank you, Chaz. This is KE5ICX, and sure, I can tell you all about it. Afterglow is a weekly net after this net. It's the last net on this repeater before everybody falls into La La Land. And we talk about a movie, sometimes a good movie. It's rare, but sometimes. This is not one of those weeks. Tonight's movie is Prisoners of the Lost Universe from 1983, cashing in on the Star Wars craze after Empire Strikes Back, of course, and maybe Return of the Jedi. But this is neither Empire Strikes Back nor Return of the Jedi. Here's a description of tonight's movie. Dr. Hartman lived on Mad Scientist Lane. The entire street was filled with crazy guys in white coats who created laser death rays, time machines, interocitors, intergalactic spaceships, anti-gravity paint, and of course, parallel universe teleporters. Carrie Madison was driving through the area when she saw a yard sale on Hartman's front lawn. Unfortunately, he hadn't sold anything, and everyone who happened to stop seemed to just disappear. Everyone's car remained, but the lawn was devoid of people. Before Carrie could ask the price of the teleportation nightstand, she too disappeared in a swirl of 1980s special effects. Join us for one of the most incomprehensible movies possible, Prisoners of the Lost Universe from 1983, starring Richard Hatch. Not the one who won, what was that contest? No, this is the other Richard Hatch, the actor, and I put that in air quotes, from Battlestar Galactica. That's tonight at 10:30 p.m. You don't need to have seen the movie, but you may have to get a note from your psychiatrist. Back to you at KE5ICX.
I have several of those notes, but that doesn't surprise anybody on here, does it? Thank you so much, Tom. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Okay, the next thing on my list is the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Let's see now. Who am I going to call on? Oh, yeah, I have to talk to myself about that. All right. So the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting will be held on Friday, October the 27th, and they will be meeting at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is Ken Sherrock, and he's from the Denver Astronomical Society. He'll be talking about the Chamberlain Observatory. Saturday night public observing sessions are going strong again. They've been doing that for the last 2 years after, of course, a short hiatus. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there would be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of sessions scheduled on a fifth Saturday. But you can check the Texas Astronomical Society website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. All right, let me see. We don't have him checked in, but maybe he's out there anyway, lurking around. Let me see if I can call on Bill, N5BB. Can you give me some information about the National Space Society events and activities?
Perfect timing, Chaz. This is N5BB. I just got back to the radio. I've been gone for a while. And I happen to be the membership director, a member of large of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. We are having a meeting tomorrow. The meeting is also always on the, excuse me, not tomorrow, but I'm a week off. We're having a meeting a week from tomorrow. This is on Sunday, October the 8th. Our meetings are always on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. It's at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving, starting at 3:30, and the presentation starts at 4. This particular meeting, our presenter will be Nancy Golden, who's one of our local members. She's going to talk about a continuously occupied, multi-purpose Mars surface base, which sounds really cool. So we're going to have that meeting here in Irving. The National Space Society has lots of events. For instance, we're doing an event at several locations for the eclipse coming up, the partial eclipse. So we're going to do some things at 2 different Dallas libraries on that day, on the 14th. And then some of the people are going to go out to Winsboro in East Texas and do an event out there at their library. So that's what I have now for National Space Society. If anybody has any interest in it, please contact me, n5bb@arrl.net. And I will tell you about the National Space Society. I'm also going to tell you one more really quick thing. For anybody interested in renewable energy or solar power, which a lot of amateur radio operators are interested in, the only location in the state of Texas that's an urban house that's on the National Solar Tour is my house. And it's going to be this coming Friday and Sunday. So Friday the 6th afternoon from 1 to 6, and Sunday the 8th from 11 o'clock until 2 p.m., the National Solar Tour will be here at my house in Irving. If you have any interest in this, you can go to tour at Byram. Let's see. Let me say this again. The website is tour.byram, BYROM.net. That's tour.byrom.net, or contact me, n5bb@arrl.net. You can see my ham radio at my shack, although I don't have any permanent antennas up. You can see my temporary antennas, and you can see my radios here, and you can see the solar backup stuff. N5BB, that's all I got.
Thank you, Bill. That sounds interesting. Does anybody need a Bill or have a question for Bill? Come now with your call sign if you do. Okay, nothing heard. We're going to take some more check-ins. Right now, I see KI5ZOT, Zot. That's pretty cool. Kimmy, I see you over on Echolink. I've got you checked in. I don't know if you wanted to be checked in, but I checked you in anyway. So is there anyone else that would like to check in to Skynet this evening? Come now with your call sign phonetically, slowly, your name and your location if you'd like to check in and get full credit for Skynet. Okay, hearing nothing, I guess we're going to move on. All right, the next thing on my list is something about the topic of the evening. That would have to be chosen by the net control. Oh, that's me. I figured I'd do something that Bill has already mentioned, but we're talking about it on a regular basis on this net, about the eclipses that are coming up. So we have 2 solar eclipses that are coming up very soon, one in just a couple of weeks, in fact 2 weeks from today. A solar eclipse is when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, and for a few lucky people on the Earth, the moon blocks out some or all of the sunlight from our view. Oh, slide master, that would be Tom. That was slide number 1. I'm so sorry, I forgot to ask you about putting up slide 1. Slide number 2. The October 14th eclipse is a partial annular solar eclipse for us here in North Texas. But along a path that goes from West Texas into New Mexico and in Arizona into Northern California, There's a path where the moon will block out all but a little ring or annulus of sunlight from the field of view. The eclipse begins here in Brookhaven College. It begins at 10:23 a.m. That would be Central Daylight Time. The middle of the eclipse is 11:52 a.m., when about 81% of the sun is covered by the moon, and the eclipse ends at 1:29 p.m. That's all Central Daylight Time. Those predictions are for the exact location of Brookhaven campus. That's where I work. It varies by a few minutes depending on where you are in North Texas, and if you're outside of that, well, it'll vary maybe by more than a few minutes. Now, just to let you know, there are 7 primary campuses for Dallas College. Every one of the campuses will have viewing sessions that are set up. All 7 campuses will have a brand new state-of-the-art 8-inch Celestron Nexstar Evolution telescope that will be used to look at the sun during this event. Pretty cool. They also have some other ones that each one of the campuses will have out as well. We'll have special viewers that are available for people to borrow and use, and there's all sorts of activities going on. Some campuses have certain things, some have others. Go to Dallas College, and you can find that information out, the details about what's going on for each campus there. All right, Slide Master, slide number 3. On April the 8th, 2024, is a total solar eclipse for us here in North Texas. From the Brookhaven campus, the sun will be completely blocked out for about 3 minutes and 20 seconds, from about 1:41 to about 1:44 p.m. During that time, called totality, you'll be able to see stars in the sky just as like it was evening twilight. It doesn't get completely dark like at night, but it's like an evening twilight. The next total solar eclipse visible from North Texas won't be until the year 2317 on July the 9th. Go ahead and put that on your calendar, 2317, July the 9th. So this total solar eclipse is a very big deal since it only happens about once every 300 years in North Texas. A few weeks ago, Kelly was talking about some historical event. I believe that there was a scientific expedition of Fort Worth in 1878, if I remember what she said, for a total eclipse that went through Fort Worth. Now, this time, Fort Worth doesn't get the totality for this solar eclipse on April the 8th, but maybe Dallas didn't get it in 1871. If you have any questions or need a fill on any of the information about the solar eclipses coming up, come down with your call sign. Okay, I guess there's nothing out there that we haven't already told you about. The next thing up on the list for Skynet tonight is called Was Up. That's usually done by Chaz, KF5JHA. Oh yeah, it's going to be done by him tonight as well. So, all right, hold on to your hats. You got to put up with me another time. We call this segment, this is Master slide number 4, please. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks. Slide number 5, please. Yesterday, on September the 29th, the moon was full, so the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. On October the 6th, the moon phase will be a third quarter. On October the 9th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,426 kilometers. On October the 14th, the moon phase is new, and of course, that's the annular solar eclipse that, well, is seen as a partial solar eclipse here in North Texas, and I just got through talking about that. On October the 21st, the moon phase will be the first quarter moon. On October the 25th, the moon is at perigee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 363,872 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 6, please. On October the 1st, we have a conjunction of the moon and Jupiter in the eastern evening sky with the planet Uranus close by. A pair of binoculars would probably be necessary to be able to see the planet Uranus. Pretty easy to find if you know where to look for it. If you have a star map, you can go to online and download a free software called Stellarium, and it's easy to find at that point. Slide Master, slide number 7. On the very next night, on October the 2nd, the moon and the star cluster, the Pleiades, will be in conjunction in the eastern evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. The October camelopartids, yes, there's a D and an L, an I, D, S at the end, yes. Meteor shower peaks on the night of October the 4th and 5th with about half a dozen meteors per hour. A few nights later, on October the 7th and 8th, the Draconid meteor shower peaks. Now, this meteor shower can have a wide range of the number of meteors, between 5 or over 1,000 meteors per hour. So what will it be this year? Don't know. You might have to go out and take a look. You can get more information about meteors and meteor showers at the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net, or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 9, please. On October the 8th, the moon and the Beehive star cluster can be seen in conjunction in the eastern morning sky. Beehive star cluster is also Charles Messier's list number 44, so M44 is what it's also called. Slide Master, slide number 10. Also on October the 8th, in the early morning eastern sky, the planet Venus and the star Regulus will be in conjunction. That'll be a nice pairing. I'll get to something that happens 2 nights later in just a minute. On the night of October the 9th and 10th, the southern Taurid meteor shower will peak with a maximum of around half a dozen meteors per hour. Oh, this is slide number 11, please. You can get more information, once again, about meteors and meteor shower at the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net, or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Now, slide master, slide number 12. On the early morning of October the 10th, there's going to be a conjunction of the moon, the planet Venus, and the star Regulus, and it's going to be a great sight to see in the eastern sky. So again, eastern morning sky, October the 10th. I hope it's clear. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 13. We already talked about it, but the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, October 27th. The meeting is held at 7:30 in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. Featured speaker is Ken Sherrock, and he's from the Denver Astronomical Society, probably talking about the Chamberlain Observatory. Let's see now. If you'd like to find out more information about the Texas Astronomical Society, the meetings, and the public observing sessions, go to texasastro.org. Now, Slide Master, slide number 14. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information I've given you? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign and the question or the need for a fill. All right, so as the moon wanes, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until the next segment, well, I'll be doing another segment in a few minutes, but hopefully there's going to be somebody who does another segment in between so I can rest my voice and get something to drink. We'll let you know about what's up next time on Skynet. The next thing on my list is Brenda, WB5OZL. She's supposed to be talking to us about space exploration and space history. Brenda, it's all yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Chaz. This is WB5OZL. In news, I want to talk about the Bennu samples. A lot of us got to enjoy the live coverage of the safe return of the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft in the Utah desert. samples were collected from the asteroid Bennu and returned to Earth. And if you would like to see the samples, 3 museums have been selected to display them to the public. The Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., Space Center Houston in Texas, and the University of Arizona's Alfie Norville Gem and Mineral Museum in Tucson were quietly selected by NASA to exhibit a piece of the asteroid Bennu as brought back to Earth by the space agency's OSIRIS-REx mission. While the details of the displays are still being worked out, including the size and nature of the material they will contain, the venues have been told to be ready as early as mid-November for the possible delivery of their Bennu space specimen. First, though, scientists need to inspect, categorize, and begin studying the contents of the OSIRIS-REx capsule. Boy, I think I'd like to go to Houston and see that. That would be pretty exciting. Next, the Psyche launch. NASA has postponed the launch of the asteroid mission Psyche a week to update the configuration of thrusters on the spacecraft. NASA announced late September 28th that it has rescheduled the launch of the spacecraft previously planned for October 5th until October 12th. A Falcon Heavy rocket will have an instantaneous launch window at 10:16 a.m. Eastern that day from Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39A. The delay takes away 1 week of the 3-week launch period for Psyche. The spacecraft has daily instantaneous launch opportunities from October 12th through 25th that would allow it to fly its trajectory to the main belt asteroid Psyche. Once at that asteroid, it will spend 2 years in a series of progressively lower orbits to study the structure and composition of the asteroids, the first solar system body made primarily of metal to be visited by a spacecraft. Next, New Horizons. NASA has agreed to extend operations of its New Horizons spacecraft through late this decade to support multidisciplinary science that can include another Kuiper Belt object flyby. NASA announced September 29th that it would extend New Horizons, currently approved for operations through the end of fiscal year 2024 until the spacecraft exits the Kuiper Belt, which is expected heliophysics data as the spacecraft heads out of the solar system. The arrangement, though, will allow the spacecraft to perform another Kuiper Belt flyby, like the flyby of Arrokoth it conducted in early 2019. While there are currently no known objects within range of New Horizons, this new path allows for the possibility of using the spacecraft for a future close flyby of such an object should one be identified, NASA said in a statement announcing the extension. Now we have astronaut birthdays. John Young, September 24th, 1930. He flew on Gemini 3, Gemini 10, Apollo 10, Apollo 16, STS-1, and STS-9. Nick Hague, September 24th, 1975. Flew on Soyuz MS-10, Soyuz MS-12, Expedition 5960. Clifton Williams, September 26, 1932. He was selected for NASA Group 3 but never flew to space because he died in a plane crash in 1967. Stephanie Wilson, September 27, 1966. Her missions were STS-121, 120, and 131. Bill Nelson, September 29, 1942. STS-61C was his only mission, but he is currently the 14th NASA administrator. James B. Halsell, September 29, 1956. He flew STS-65, 74, 83, 94, and 101. Livingston L. Holder, Jr., September 29, 1956. He had no flights. Stephen Frick, September 30th, 1964. STS-110 and 122. So this week in space history, September 27th, 2007, there's a Delta rocket carrying the Dawn spacecraft launching on September 27th, 2007 from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station's Pad 17B. The Dawn spacecraft became the first to orbit two planetary bodies, asteroid Vesta and dwarf planet Ceres, during its 11th-year mission. September 29th, 1988, STS-26 Discovery lifted off triumphantly from Kennedy Space Center's LC-39B, marking the Space Shuttle program's post-Challenger return to flight. The crew included astronauts Frederick Rick Houck, mission commander, and Richard O. Covey, pilot. Mission specialists included David C. Hilmers, George D. Pinky Nelson, and John M. Mike Lounge. That's all I got. This is WB5OZL. Back to net.
Thank you so much, Brenda. I think what we need to do is take some more check-ins if there's anybody else out there. If you'd like to check in and you have not done so you can get credit for tonight's Skynet, please come now with your call sign, slowly and phonetically, your name and your location. Come now if you'd like to check in to Skynet.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Charlie Kilo X-Ray Gregory in Addison.
Kilo India 5 Uniform Juliet Destin in Dallas.
Kilo Bravo 9 Sierra Oscar Kilo Shannon Fort Worth.
So I've got Gregory and Justin and Sean. Thank you so much. Addison, Dallas, and Fort Worth. So, are there any other people that would like to check into this evening's Skynet? Come now with your call sign, phonetically, slowly, and your name and your location. For those keeping score, we're up to 26 people that have checked in on tonight's Skynet. Thank you so much. We'll do some more rounds of check-ins later on in Skynet. All right, the next segment is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, usually done by Chaz, KF5JHA. Oh, that's me. I guess I'll do that. Slide master, slide number 16, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in North Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. So Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Microscopium, the microscope. Microscopium represents the microscope and is not associated with any of the myths because it's one of the modern day constellations. Microscopium is the 66th constellation in size. Microscopium has no Messier objects and it does not contain any named stars. Slide Master, what everyone's been waiting for the entire night long, all night long. Slide number 17 are the jokes of the week. So I was trying to come up with a joke about a microscope. Then I realized I had a bad objective. Oh, I'm sure a lot of you out there confirm that, right? Oh, why did the germs cross the microscope? To get to the other slide. I looked at a penny under a microscope and I said, Magnificent. Okay, these are kind of a stretch, aren't they? I highly respect Microscope. They teach us to enjoy the little things in life. What do you call mouthwash for tiny scientists? Well, of course, it's a microscope. And the last one for this portion of Skynet. You know, I'm probably going to have to do other jokes later on, but a scientist called a customer service support about his microscope, from his microscope company, complaining that the light bulb was broke. And the customer support responded they would look into it. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Masters, slide number 18, please. Talk about a few stars in Microscopium. Theta Microscopii is the third brightest star in the constellation and consists of a wide double star, Theta 1 and Theta 2, which can both be seen without binoculars in an ideal condition. The two components belong to a spectral class A and are white magnetic spectrum variable stars that have strong magnetic lines. Metallic lines, excuse me. Alpha Microscopii is the fourth brightest star. Yeah, it's the alpha star and it's the fourth brightest star in the sky, in the constellation. Isn't that interesting? It is a variable star with an apparent magnitude that ranges from 4.88 to 4.94. The star is approximately 380 light years distance from the Earth. It is a spectral type G73 yellow giant star in a double system. The visual companion has an apparent magnitude of 10 with a separation of 20.4 seconds of arc. It can be seen in a small telescope. And the third star I want to talk about is Lassell 8760. It is one of the nearest stars to the Sun. It's only 12.87 light years in distance. It has a stellar classification of M0VE. It has an apparent magnitude of 6.67, too faint to be seen without binoculars. It's a variable star classified as a flare star that erupts less than once a day on average. It has a mass of about 60% that of the Sun, is one of the largest and brightest red dwarf stars known. Slide Master, slide number 19, please. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog 6925, is a barred spiral galaxy, has an apparent magnitude. It can be found 3.7 degrees to the northwest of Alpha Microscopium. It was discovered by an English astronomer, John Herschel, in July of 1834. A Type 2b supernova, supernova 2011 EI, was discovered in the galaxy in the year 2011. That's why it's called SN 2011 EI. Slide Master, slide number 20. NGC, in other words, New General Catalog 6923, is another spiral galaxy. It has an apparent magnitude of 12.2 and lies less than, approximately 36 million parsecs from the Earth. The galaxy also is discovered by John Herschel in the summer of 1834. And this is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 21. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Microscopium. I've given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 77 different observing programs. Most of them have about 100 objects. So, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide number 22, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, this week, Microscopium, the Microscope. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal from them for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next week I'll take a look at two constellations, Pisces Austronus the southern fish, and grouse. What the heck is a grouse? I guess you'll have to sign in next week to find out. Wow. All right, the next thing up on our list of things for Skynet, it comes from Tom, KE5ICX, space launches for the next week. Tom, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chaz. This is KE5ICX. I get all my information from spacecoastlaunches.com and from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. So we have a few things coming up. We got more than just a few things. October 5th, overnight, Theos 2 and Formostat 7R Triton launch. This is from Kourou, French Guiana, VLV. A Vega rocket designated BB-23 will be sending a collection of 12 satellites into sun-synchronous orbit. The main payload is the Thailand Earth Observation System 2, or Theos 2, which is an Earth-observing satellite built on behalf of the Kingdom of Thailand. It is designated to complement its Theos 1, which launched in 2008. Secondary payload is Formostat 7R Triton, which was developed by the Taiwanese Space Agency, or TASA. Its Global Navigation Satellite System Reflectometer, or GLESNR, tool will help meteorologists gather wind data over oceans to help with forecasting trajectory and intensity of typhoons. October 6th will be a launch of Project Kuiper protoflight. This will be from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. First two demonstration satellites for Amazon's Project Kuiper broadband constellation will launch on an Atlas 501 rocket. These satellites were originally scheduled to fly on the first Vulcan rocket. And set your calendar for this one. This was mentioned earlier by Brenda. On October 12th will be a launch of Psyche on a Falcon Heavy from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. This will be NASA's asteroid mission. The Maxter-built spacecraft will travel to the metallic asteroid Psyche, where it will enter orbit in 2029. This is the first spacecraft to explore a metal-rich asteroid, which may be the leftover core of the protoplanet that began forming in the early solar system more than 4 billion years ago. Falcon Heavy's two side boosters will return to landing zones 1 and 2 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station for recovery. The center core will be extended. Then we have to be determined the Falcon 9 Worldview Legion 1 and 2. This will launch from SLC-4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch the first pair of Worldview Legion Earth observation satellites. They plan to deploy 6 commercial Worldview high-resolution remote sensing satellites into a mix of sun-synchronous and mid-inclination orbits on 3 SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets. The first stage of Falcon 9 will return to landing zone 4 at Vandenberg. Then we have to be determined the O3B mPOWER 5 and 6. This is from SLC-40. This will be in October, too, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The rocket will launch the third pair of those satellites with medium Earth orbit for SEX Luxembourg. The satellites built by Boeing will provide internet services over most of the populated world, including SES's 03B network. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Then to be determined, USS F-124 will launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9, it doesn't say much about it at all. It just says that it's a SpaceX Falcon 9 mission for the U.S. Space Force and Missile Defense Agency. That's it, no other details. November 1st will be another Falcon 9 launch from pad 39A at Cape Kennedy Space Center. This will be the Dragon 2 spacecraft on a cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. The flight is the 29th mission for SpaceX conducted under the Commercial Resupply Services contract with NASA. We have another launch to be determined. It's November 15th, though. Time is yet to be determined. From Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy, a Falcon 9 rocket will launch an IM-1 mission with the Nova C lander built and owned by Intuitive Machines. The IM-1 mission will attempt to deliver a suite of science payload to the surface of the moon for NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program. Then we have in November the Long March 2F launch, or Senshao 17. This spacecraft, we will have 3 Chinese astronauts on board to rendezvous and dock with the Chinese space station in low Earth orbit. This is China's 12th crewed space mission, and it's the 6th of the Chinese space station. The crew numbers have not been announced by China. And then finally, sometime in the fourth quarter, ASBM will launch on a Falcon 9. SOC-4E Vandenberg Space Force Base in California will be the location. The Arctic Satellite Broadband Mission, consisting of 2 satellites owned by Space Norway. Falcon 9 will launch the 2 Northrop Grumman-built satellites into a highly elliptical orbit that lingers over the Arctic region. The satellites carry communications payloads for the Norwegian Ministry of Defense, the U.S. Space Force, and Inmarsat. And that's it. That's all I got, Chaz. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you so much, Tom. Usually we run out of time toward the end of Skynet for the launches, or at least a few of them. And sometimes we run out of time completely for recent astronomical discoveries, but we have plenty of time for that. And that's what's next on our list. And Brenda, you're going to be able to have as much time as you want to. Brenda, WB5OZL, please come now with recent astronomical discoveries.
Okay, I'll talk slow. This is WB5OZL. Astronomers have found a striking link between the amount of dust surrounding a supermassive black hole and the strength of the radio emission produced in extremely bright galaxies. The findings are published in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society. The team of international astronomers, led by Newcastle University and Durham University, UK, used new data from the Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument, DESI, which is conducting a 5-year survey of large-scale structure in the universe that will include optical spectra for about 3 million quasars, extremely bright galaxies powered by supermassive black holes. They found that quasars that contained more dust and therefore appear redder were more likely to have stronger radio emission compared to the quasars that had little to no dust, appearing very blue. Almost every known galaxy contains a supermassive black hole, which are black holes with a mass millions to billions that of our Sun at its center, including our own Milky Way. In some galaxies, there's lots of material in the center feeding and growing this supermassive black hole, making it very energetic and active. The most powerful type of these active galaxies are called quasars, and which are some of the brightest objects in the universe. Most quasars appear very blue due to the bright disk of matter that orbits and feeds the central supermassive black hole, which is very bright in optical and ultraviolet wavelengths. However, astronomers have found that a significant fraction of these quasars appear very red, although the nature of these objects is still not well understood. In order to understand the physics of these red quasars, spectroscopic measurements are required, which can be used to analyze the quasar light at different wavelengths. The shape of the quasar spectrum can indicate the amount of dust present surrounding the central region. Observing the radio emission from quasars can also tell you about the energetics of the central supermassive black hole, whether it is launching powerful winds or jets that might shape the surrounding galaxy. This new study, led by Dr. Victoria Fawcett of Newcastle University and previously Durham University, uses spectroscopic observations from DESI to measure the amount of dust reddening in a sample of about 35,000 quasars, and link this to the observed radio emission. They find that DESI is capable of observing much more extreme red dusty quasars compared to similar previous spectroscopic surveys. such as the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, SDSS. They also find that redder quasars are much more likely to have a strong radio emission compared to typical blue quasars. Dr. Fawcett says, it was really exciting to see the amazing quality of the DESI data and to discover thousands of these previously rare red quasars. I feel like this study puts lots of the puzzle pieces together, and our understanding of red quasars and definitively links the dust in a quasar to its radio emission. I think this is the strongest evidence so far that red quasars are a key element in how galaxies evolve. The reddening ratio connection is likely due to powerful outflows of gas driven away from the supermassive black hole, which slam into the surrounding dust, causing shocks and radio emission. These outflows will eventually blow away all the dust and gas in the central region of the galaxies, revealing a blue quasar and resulting in weaker radio emission. This is consistent with the emerging picture that red quasars are a younger blowout phase in the evolution of galaxies. Red quasars may therefore be extremely important for understanding how galaxies evolve over time. Dr. Fawcett continues, there are still many unanswered questions surrounding red quasars, such as whether black hole winds or radio jets are ultimately responsible for this enhanced radio emission. However, with the sample of DESI, red quasars continuing to grow over the next few years of the survey, I'm confident we are on the brink of fully understanding the nature of these red quasars. Okay, this was from ScienceDaily.com. So back to net. This is WB50ZL.
Thank you, Brenda. Didn't it feel good to be able to get through the entire thing and not be having to cut it short? That was great. And I'm so used to hearing you sign in from DeSoto, so I know you moved. You're in Dallas now, but it's great to hear you on the radio. All right, the next on my list of things to do for Skynet tonight is visible satellite passages over the next few days, few months, few years, I don't know. Whatever you've got. And this is from KE5ICX. You're up again. Tell us something. This is KF5JHA.
Very good. Thank you, Chaz. I think because of the position of the Earth and reflection of the sun, that we don't have a lot of very good observation of spacecraft. But I do have a few. I've got the International Space Station, of course, and I've only got two really good ones. October 3rd, it'll be a minus 3.4 magnitude at 2006. Out of the northwest to reach its highest point at 48 degrees at 2056, and it'll fall into shadow at, let me go to October 3rd here. I can't read the right thing. This is the complete pass, so it'll reach its highest point at 2009 at 48 degrees, and it'll fall to the east-southwest east at 2010. Then on October 5th, minus 2.7 magnitude. This is at 2006 once again. As west-northwest, it'll reach its highest point at 2009 at 43 degrees in the southwest, and it'll fall to the south-southeast at 2012. That's it. That's all I got for the ISS. There are some that go into shadows, but I'm not going to put those out. Next is the other space station, the Tiangong Space Station, the Chinese space station. It has a couple of good passes. We have October 1. There's two passes. The better one is minus 1.0 magnitude at 1939 out of the west. Reach its highest point at 1942, and it'll fall to 1945 to the northeast. October 8th, we've got a minus 1.1 magnitude at 2030 in the evening. It'll reach its highest point at 2033 at 36 degrees in the north, and it'll fall to 2033.07 and into shadow, yay, at 36 degrees. And then finally on October 9th, there's two passes. The better one is the first one, minus 0.7 magnitude at 1928, In the evening, it'll reach its highest point at 25 degrees. 1931, it'll fall to the east-northeast at 1933 at 10 degrees. Now, usually I'd give you a bunch of good passes with Envisat. But again, what's happened is that there are very few. We go as it's a polar satellite, and the way everything is situated right now, it goes into shadow frequently. So you get very short passes, usually along the horizon, and that's it. So that's all I got, Chaz. Back to you, KE5ICX.
You're correct. This time of the year, it's hard to see the satellites. 10 days ago, we got to see a couple of them during astronomy observing at Brookhaven campus. They were a couple of brighter ones. One wasn't even on our chart. It was probably a military one that we don't usually get predictions for, and then the other one was a predicted rocket body that we were able to see. But this time of the year is not the best time to see satellites. Actually, one of the best times is April through the first part of June. Then we can actually see a lot of the satellites for quite some time in the evening sky. So this is not the right time of the year. You might see more in the morning sky this time of the year, but the evening you're not going to see much at all. But thank you so much for all the work that you put into doing that. All right, so right now we have some time. Does anybody out there have any questions or would like a fill or, well, do you have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign.
Kilo Charlie 5, Romeo Alpha India.
Whiskey 5, Golf Uniform Sierra.
All right, Charles, you're up first. What's your question?
Well, on an older computer I had a program called Skynet, but it won't run on my current computer. So I was wondering who else might know of a program that turns the computer into a planetarium so that you can figure out what you're looking at before you actually go outside, or so you can plan it. I'm just wondering, might use KC5REI.
Well, Charles, the software that I use is called Stellarium, and they have, of course, the current version available, but they have archived versions that go way back at least 10 years worth. And one of those archived programs from the past, one of those former editions would probably work for you. I'm not sure what software you're using on your computer, but I'm sure one of the versions, the older versions of Stellarium would work for you. I've been using Stellarium for, I guess I've been using it for about 16 years. And so they have versions that go way back that work on really old versions of Windows. And in fact, it runs on Windows, it runs on Macintoshes, and also works on, I've forgotten the software, Linux. It works on Linux. So they have different versions for all three of those platforms. So Linux, Macintosh, as well as PCs. So, Charles, did that help you out at all?
A little bit, since what it is, my original computer was using DOS, which shows you, and my current computer is Windows. I forget the actual number, but it's a Windows. But it's like when I got it, a lot of my programs were no longer working, which didn't bother me because that meant they were things that I weren't going to use anyway. But I like to. Oh, actually, I still have my other computer working, but I just want something as a backup. And so, yes, it does help me. KC5REI.
I understand. DOS 6.22, if I remember right, is the last current version of Microsoft DOS program, I think, if I remember right. Anyway, I think I have a version of it somewhere on one computer or another. Thank you, Charles. Hey, you know who's up next? I think that's Gus. Gus, what's your question or something you need to fill on? Come now.
Okay, thank you, Chaz. W5GUS here. Well, kind of a quick question. I've seen the U.S. space station, or the International Space Station, many times, but I was wondering, just in general, is the Chinese station as bright as the ISS is, just in general? I don't know how large, if it's larger or smaller, or I've never tried to see it, but I'm curious about seeing the Chinese space station. Is it as bright as the ISS in general? W5GUS.
Well, I've seen both, and the ISS is so much brighter. In fact, sometimes the ISS is bright enough that it can cast shadows on the ground. You have to be in a dark location for that to happen, but that's how bright the International Space Station is. Tiangong is not. Is this the current version? I think we've had one or two versions of Tiangong before now. Tom, would you like to help answer this question? I know Tiangong, the last time I saw it, it wasn't that bright at all. KF5JHA 2 KC5 KE to Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Chaz. Yes, it is quite a bit, because the International Space Station is quite a bit larger than Tiangong. It is going to reflect a lot more light because of the surface area from the station itself. I'm just looking at the numbers here. Of course, it will vary greatly depending on how high it is in the sky. But looking at the numbers here for Tiangong, they run, I only give the brightest, but which is like minus 1.1 magnitude is probably the brightest. You'll get a minus 3.5 magnitude out of the, or more, out of the International Space Station. It's considerably different, and it's very bright. The International Space Station actually looks like it could be a passing aircraft because it's so bright, whereas Tiangong is still bright in comparison to other satellites, non-ISS, but you would not probably mistake it as an aircraft. That is significantly different. I mean, if you were to look at Venus or think about Venus, the ISS would be not too much, it would be a little less bright or equivalent to, but you would see Tiangong when it flies over. In fact, a few years ago, I saw them both go over at the same time, and it was quite an interesting thing to see. One was going in one direction, the other was slightly inclined, heading in the same basic direction, but a little different inclination, which was pretty cool, but it was a very striking difference. I hope that helps. KE5ICX.
Thank you so much, Tom. Gus, did that help answer your question?
Yes, it certainly did. That was kind of interesting. I knew it was a little smaller Chinese version, but all right, I'll see if I can see that these next couple passes. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Chaz. W5GUS. Back to net.
When we had Iridium satellites in the air, sometimes those would have flares that were brighter than the International Space Station, but those have been deorbited because we have a different series of satellites that are used for satellite cell phones. So, and they aren't that bright at all, unfortunately. All right, so we've come to almost the end of Skynet. Do we have any questions or any other comments that we'd like to get from anybody? Come now with your call sign if you'd like to get a question answered or if you need a fill. Okay, let's see if we have any final check-ins. This will be the final check-in for Skynet for this evening. Come now with your call sign, slowly, phonetically, and your name and your location if you'd like to join us for this session of Skynet. Well, we didn't do too badly tonight. I have a total of 26 on my list of people who checked in to Skynet. Thank you for all that checked in this evening. I hope you will join us next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space exploration, and yes, Chaz's jokes. On this net, the sky is never the limit. Of course, my jokes might not be that good. We're always looking for net control stations for this and every one of the DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at that, well, look, if I can do this, you can too. I just have a hard time copying everyone because I don't do this very often. My ears and my hands just don't work together that fast. But if you'd like to try that, you can email nets@w5fc.org and send them an email saying, hey, I want to try something. If you follow along the topics and discussions about tonight's net and astronomy in general, you can know that we have a Facebook and I think Twitter, well, it's not Twitter, it's called X, as well as audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful information. Go to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net, which is just about in a few moments. Until next Saturday night, this is KF5JHA, and I'll be closing the net at 10:21:54 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. I want to say 73, and I hope all of you have fun exploring the universe over the next week. This is KF5JHA, end of net. Tom, do you want to say something about what's coming up next in about 8 minutes?
Yeah, thank you, Chaz. This is KE5ICX. We'll start at 10:30, or about 8 minutes, maybe 7 minutes and 30 seconds from now. We'll be discussing tonight's wonderful, craptacular movie, Prisoners of the Lost Universe from 1983, starring Richard Hatch. Yes, Richard Hatch. Come back then. This is KE5ICX.
Normal state. I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly. Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, well, it is 10:30 and it is time for us to begin the weekly Afterglow Movie Net. The Afterglow Movie Net was created a number of years ago with the intent of discussing motion pictures after Skynet. It was an accidental net originally. It was just us getting together and talking about it, some different movies, and then finally what happened was we had so many people checking, kind of being a part of it, that we had to turn it into a net so that everybody could speak. So we've had, over the years, a lot of people, a few people. Kind of depends on the movie, the day of the week, and where the stars are positioned in the sky. But it remains and continues to be our place to discuss great and not so great cinema of a science fiction variety, or fantasy, or whatever we decide. Sometimes we've done non-science fiction movies, but I will tell you, I absolutely forbid Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. We have never watched that film, nor, well, on my watch will we ever get a chance to. I cannot sit through that movie. But tonight we have something that comes pretty darn close. It's called Prisoners of the Lost Universe, starring Richard Hatch from the original Battlestar Galactica. You may also know that Richard Hatch also appeared in the rebooted Battlestar Galactica in a much better role. At any rate, let me tell you a little bit about the movie and a review which I found quite interesting. So listen in, and then after that, you will have an opportunity to discuss the film, whether you saw it or not. Hopefully you did. If you didn't, that's okay. We'll ask you questions like, would you watch this movie? To which you should properly respond, no. Or, if you feel strongly about it, hell no. Or if it's worse than that, don't bother to respond, because it will be using words probably you made up that are swear words, even more sweary than normal. So the details here on Wiki says, Prisoners of the Lost Universe is a 1983 British fantasy science fiction action film by Terry Marcel and Harry Robertson. It was shot in South Africa. That's why everybody's steering wheel is on the right side of the automobiles. It has three people are transported to a parallel universe when an earthquake occurs, just as a scientist is experimenting with this matter transmitter. You know how that goes. Matter transmitters always go awry. This one does. The trio must escape the strange world of Banya while dealing with a number of villains. Does that sound like something you want to see? Yeah, that's what I thought too. Okay, here we go. This is a description and a little bit of a review. This came from, I can't tell because, filmauthority.com. And it says, 1982, racking up the points on the bad dialogue scoreboard is in just the first 5 minutes. Terry Marcel is an unheralded figure, but his unique comic book sensibility somehow seemed out of step with both the 70s and 80s boom. He went from a first and second AD on projects as diverse as Straw Dogs and Pink Panther films to taking the directorial reins on cult classics Hulk the Slayer and comic strip revival Jane and the Lost City. He got a certain swashbuckling style that has never been matched by his budgets. Together with producer and musical maestro Harry Robertson, they wrote the script for Prisoners of the Universe, a very 1982 project involving time-traveling portals. H.G. Wells' Time Machine, or at least George Pal's version, seems to be the jumping-off point. And what a jump! Battlestar Galactica's Richard Hatch is Dan, a man in a truck involved in a highway crash with Carrie, played by Kay Lentz, during a series of Earth tremors. She visits the home of Dr. Hartman, played by Kenneth Hendel, a scientist who has constructed a portal to another dimension and doesn't seem to see any reason why an earthquake might hinder his experiment. The three of them are transported to the lost universe that looks exactly like South African scrubland, with some trees with paper plates attached. Ruled with an iron fist by Cleo, played by John Saxon, who makes General Zod look like a social worker. What else? There's a giant who looks like the late Greek singer Demis Roussos, talking geese, a tiny thief, and a number of oddities which mark Hawk the Slayer as a bizarro classic, plus the kind of chat that grabs the attention. You may only work on snakes who like music, and what am I supposed to do with a mad scientist for an hour, both racking up points on bad dialogue scorecard in the first 5 minutes. Saxon, looking like Sean Connery's stunt double and enjoying himself as usual, is something of a blast here with plentiful catchphrases and uncertain horsemanship. The actor had his fans in the U.S., but in the U.K., John Saxon's enduring popularity dictates that his face appears on coins and stamps, and lucrative government grants are available to film theorists who can prove they've seen over 50 of his films. That's not actually true, but it should be. Meanwhile, in a parallel universe that looks a lot like ours, Marcel's daughter Rosie wrote the screenplay for 50 Shades of Grey. Fans of a bad movie dialogue can connect the dots themselves. And this was written by somebody who does not want to reveal their actual name. And that came from filmauthority.com. Okay, about two-thirds of the way through the film, I could not sit through it. I went to bed. I didn't even tell anybody while we were watching the film because I was so tired. Plus, I had to get up at 3 a.m. this morning. I'll tell you that later. At any rate, I had to go to bed. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins. If you would like to join us this evening to discuss the fine film from 1983, Prisoners of the Lost Universe, with Richard Hatch, yes, Richard Hatch, and John Saxon playing Sean Connery, please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Prisoners of the Lost Universe? That is optional, by the way. Please come now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas. I saw more than half of it.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in Dallas. Yeah, I saw the whole blinking thing. I didn't get to go to sleep. I was having wake mares.
Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Junior Leopard, I saw the Red Tracks version, and that was hard to watch.
Okay. I've got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yes, he saw most of it. WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas. She saw all of it and is suffering because of it. And Jay, KG5BZW well, I didn't ask where he was from, but I know it's near Weatherford. He did see the film. He watched the Rift Tracks version. That's what I watched, and it still didn't help any. Anyone else want to join us? Tonight's movie, Prisoners of the Lost Universe from 1982.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia. I have not seen this movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, shot in Fort Worth. Yes, I seen this film.
Okay, we managed to reluctantly get two more. I got NV5F, Virginia and Fort Worth. No, she did not see the film. Don't worry, we'll call upon you and ask if you would like to see this fine film after hearing everyone's assessment. NKB9SOK, Sean, one of our regulars, yes, he did see the film. Good boy. Anyone else? Okay, I suspect that we will get others who will check in a little later, and I will ask for additional check-ins when I get to the bottom of the list. So we'll just start at the top. Lucky Tony, NT5TM. Tony, you actually watched our film this week. I assume that you've built up your immunity to bad films and decided to rejoin us in the terrible movie cinema classics, which this is one of them. So, Tony, your thoughts on this round involves what you think of the plot. What did you think of the plot for Prisoners of the Lost Universe with Richard Hatch from KE5ICX?
Well, I can give this movie an important compliment. It really made for a healthier lifestyle today. Very often on late Saturday afternoon, I have a special cocktail that I only have on Saturday afternoons. I take some ice water and a drink known as absinthe, and I combine them and sip them, and I watch the Afterglow movie. And, of course, if the Afterglow movie is really funny, perhaps I might consume more alcohol that is entirely healthy. But for some reason, this movie drove me away from drink. I thought, oh, it's time to get out the birds and play with them. And, oh, the dog needs a long walk. And, oh, I wanted to install that new HF antenna on my car. So yeah, actually, this is a great movie if you don't want to drink too much because you get chased outside. It has what I guess an English teacher would call a picaresque plot. Instead of a single unified plot, where, we meet the characters and then a conflict is introduced and it becomes more and more difficult until finally there's a big climactic crisis and either they all die honorably in battle or they all marry and live happily ever after. Some resolution happens and then the plot ends. No, in a picaresque plot, things just keep happening one darn thing after another. You struggle to return your library books on time, but then you're chased by space whales. You escape from the space whales, but then you suddenly struggle to water all your plants. It's almost like a dream or something. You just bounce from one little short story-esque thing to another. And, sometimes that can work. Robinson Crusoe is probably the most famous picaresque story, kind of almost a novel, but not quite. But it's fun. And Aaron adds that the book Forrest Gump is very much that way. Unfortunately, this didn't work. When you're not a good writer, these episodes don't really seem to relate to one another at all. They seem sort of random and incoherent. One thing happens, and there's these kind of tiny creatures being thrown over a cliff, and then suddenly you're about to be sacrificed to a giant rock, and then an evil, amoral scientist is trying to make nitroglycerin, and yeah. And then there's this green man who's actually kind of a pale gray. I'll talk about that in round 3, I guess. The picaresque part of this didn't work at all. It just was incoherent. One random thing happened after another, and it made me want to, do chores, and I lost interest in alcohol and movies. So I guess, again, it protects us from liver disease. Nicest thing I can say about it. NT5TM.
Well, thank you, Tony. And I think that's a first. I think this is the first time I've ever heard where one of our movies drove us, or drove you in particular, not to drink. Not to drink. That's very unusual. That drove you away from the screen and from indoors to go do something productive outdoors, which is always preferred state. Excellent. Okay. Very interesting. I will keep that in mind. Well, I don't have to worry about that. Anyway, okay, next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda was watching it. We have a little group watch on Friday evenings at 8 o'clock, and if you'd like to join us, if you have Facebook, or go to Afterglow Gang, that's 2 words, Afterglow Gang, in the chat, and you can join us and discuss the movies in real time, unless you fall asleep, which is what happened to me. So, Brenda, WB5OZL, what did you think about the plot to Prisoners of the Lost Universe with Richard Hatch?
This is WB5OZL. Yeah, you really make a case. Y'all come to our party. It's going to be boring and stupid. But come anyway. So, plot. I like the way Tony put it. This is what I always think of as the third graders. What I did last summer. Oh, first I did this, and then I did that, and then I did this, and then I did that. It's just utterly boring and pedestrian, and nothing ties together, and it's not really a story. But what they put out there as a story was pathetic. I'm sorry. This is just a pathetic movie. That's all I can say about it. What I can say is it was easy to understand the plot because it was so stupid and simple-minded. I guess that's one good thing. I guess I should look for something some vice I need to give up and tie it into movies like this, so I'll turn away from them. But wonderful aversion therapy. Okay, back to net, WB5OZL.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Brenda. Now, I do have a question, several questions for the Collective Hive tonight. I'm looking at the poster for Prisoners of the Lost Universe, and there's some background things behind Richard Hatch. The Richard Hatch, along with John Saxon, the Sean Connery stunt double, and then that guy in the slime. It doesn't look anything like the guy in the slime, and the gal in the two-piece something I don't remember seeing. But, hold on. Sorry, I was choking on my popcorn when I started talking about this. In the background, there seems to be a large city that is falling apart earthquake style. Then there's a volcano that is exploding, followed by that weird slimy guy out of the, looks like he's surrendering as he's getting out of the water slime pit thing. Just asking for a friend. And then Prisoners of the Lost Universe itself looks like, and behind it is another volcano. Whoever did the artwork for this, I think, was on drugs. But at any rate, I just thought I'd mention that. Okay, next up on the list is, I wanted to know, did they ever make it back to South Africa, or were they forever stuck in the Lost Universe? So that would be my question. But first, we'll talk to Jay over on Echolink. He saw the Rift Tracks version, which I did, but I don't think that helped it much. KG5BZW. Jay, what'd you think about the plot for our movie Prisoners of the Lost Universe from KE5ICX?
This is KG5BZW. First off, to answer your question, no, two of them made it back, and it was the most random kind of back to your own universe thing that I could think of. Although, in the sense of making sense for the plot, it did. What I'm trying to say, I want to say it worked with the plot for what little sense that made. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to say anything very rude or anything. I can't really think. I swear this movie just kind of turned off neurons for me. Having trouble reactivating here. It just kind of just went from one thing to another. And I know I've seen movies where that works fine, but there's cause and effect, and I guess cause and effect happen here too. But it just, gosh, it was so hard to care. I don't know. I have to admit, I think maybe for the purpose of actually paying attention to the movie and whatnot, it was a little bit hard to watch with the riff tracks, because actually sometimes they would start say stuff that seemed kind of like a key point, and then of course there was a riff that was played too, not played, but made. A little joke or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's... So, yeah, of course, obviously, for the purpose of that, of what purpose of, I mean, the jokes that the riff tracks guys made were fine. I was chuckling all the way through, but, so I didn't have a horrible time, but yeah, it was almost at the expense of actually remembering the movie, which may have been a good thing, because I'm not sure if there's much I'd really want to remember about the movie. Don't know. But I can't. I think Rip Track's just more of a. I don't know if I should be thanking them or not, because I just can't remember the stuff. I'm sure half of that at least is just a function of the movie itself. So I'll say that's my 2 cents. Leave it at that. KT5BW.
All right, thank you, Jay. Some additional notes here. I see here that the movie was 138 minutes long. That's 2 hours. At least that's what it says here. Why on earth you would have a movie that long and not have much of a plot is beyond me, which may explain the fact that it was very, more or less incoherent. Okay, Virginia, I'm going to save you here for the second round to ask your opinion on what you think of everyone's comments. So hang tight. I do have you here, but I need your full... Okay, Sean, your comments on our fine film this week. What the hell is this thing? Oh, Prisoners of the Lost Universe from 1983 with Richard Hatch.
Yeah, this is KB9. SOK. Yeah, this may be Richard Hatch's worst movie. Like Tony, I found this difficult to watch. I did watch it all the way through. While I was watching it, I was working on my little mini table that I have for my amateur radio equipment and was redoing it. And so I did get something done while I watched the movie, but I found the redoing the cart way more interesting than the movie. So yeah, this plot was just so generic and just kind of random. I don't know if maybe the poster was a hint of maybe stuff they were going to do, and then they made the poster before they finished the movie. But yeah, even just from the beginning, even the little silly accident, them two just arguing with each other, kind of didn't make sense. They didn't exchange insurance cards, none of that. She pulled out a wad that looked like thousands of dollars when she was going to give him money, and then it was just kind of weird from even there. And then, obviously the scientist was, well, any self-respecting scientist would not be doing an experiment when he knows there's external circumstances going on, especially an earthquake. I think that would, right there would be an indicator this is not a wise thing to be doing. So, yeah, and then, I see how he fell into it, but then, when Richard Hatch showed up, and which I forget what his character name actually was in the movie, and then our reporter, or I guess you could say she's a reporter, host of the TV show, he's standing there. She doesn't warn him to get away from it, and then he goes in, and then she just walks over and walks right into it. So, I knew he was in for a winner when this was kind of how it started out. And, when they found themselves on the other side, it was just kind of, it just didn't really get much better with the crazy circumstances that they run into. I found it kind of, they walk around for, I guess, maybe a few hours, maybe a day. They don't really tell you the time. But, they come across, they're tired. She finds water, and you think she's going to run over and get something to drink. Oh, no, she strips naked and jumps in the water and decides to take a bath in a parallel universe, just randomly. It's like, that makes sense for the two guys you don't know. So, they really thought this one out really well. So, it just kind of continues on with ridiculousness from there. The fighting scenes were almost hilarious. I guess he's supposed to be some kind of sword fighter, but every time we go to kick somebody, it's like he did these little mini multiple kicks. It was almost comical. But unfortunately, the writing was so bad it was hard to laugh. The whole thing was just completely just one scene after another like that. It was just, it didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it was a simple plot. It wasn't hard to figure out, but it was just, I don't know. Nothing really moved the story any further. It's just, all their decisions in this movie made no sense. I didn't even bother taking notes on this one. And then, as you asked about the ending, that made no sense either. They go on, and the scientists know we need the bad guy's money, or not money or whatever, or his resources to find a way back. And, they magically stumble across her little compact case, and she goes, oh, here's the case, or whatever, and they pick it up, and then her and, the good guy disappear, go back. I guess they go back, use him disappearing, and that's it. It was just, clearly the writers didn't know how to finish this movie, or come up with a clever, somewhat sciencey thing to do, so they just did that. The other thing I thought was weird was just his relationship with the girls. Like, they couldn't stand each other, which we see in a lot of movies. Then by the end, they fall in love. But, they were fighting, and within just a couple hours, they magically fall in love, at the very beginning. So, this was just, it was a tough one. I still think it's the worst thing we've watched, but it's not great. And just, this is kind of a general question about the Facebook club. When I went on there, I actually did try to search it 2 weeks ago, and when I typed in the Afterglow group, I actually come across, the only thing that came up was the Afterglow group that grows apparently flowers. So I'm not real sure if there's another word or something needs to be in there, or a hyphen, or whatever. But maybe one of these days you can send out a link to that in the emails. But interesting. Back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, very good. I think it's Afterglow, one word, gang. I'll go look it up again and make sure. Maybe I should. I thought I put it in the on the Facebook page, but I don't know. Maybe people have a problem with it because I did something wrong. It wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last time. I probably typed it in wrong. Okay, let's see here. I'll go ahead and ask if there are additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, we're talking about tonight's movie, Prisoners of the Lost Universe. Please come with your call. Your name, did you see the film? Oh, that's what I was afraid of, that people wouldn't come forward on this one. Hold on a sec. I'm having some sort of a coughing spell tonight. I'm not sure what it is. I'm eating popcorn. It's very good. I haven't had popcorn in a long time. And I think there's a kernel or something caught in there. So I may break a little bit. Oh, at any rate, some of my comments on this thing is, does the mad scientist live in his house? If he does, why does he wear a white coat all the time? It appears that he's got an area that looks exactly like a building that you might, work out of, but it appears in the front like a house. So I'm not sure exactly what it is. Is it an office building that looks like a house, or is it a house that looks like an office building on the inside? And the equipment he's got for a time machine, I mean, we had the time tunnel on Irwin Allen, which is, a million stories down inside of the Arizona desert somewhere, and lots of a power core that's gigantic, and hundreds, if not thousands, of people working there. This guy has a matter transporter machine that seems to run off of house current, and it just needs this little wall mount thing that you would get over at Walmart or something. Maybe something, maybe it uses the power of maybe a dishwasher. It's that. That's pretty amazing in and of itself. I think this low power unit would that is able to do all this. Second thing, and it was mentioned in the discussion, why is he doing experiments during tremors? And why are they occurring? And why are they occurring in South Africa? Is that a normal thing? I don't know. We never did find out exactly quite a bit. Let me see. The stories. And they did the demonstration of dematerializing something. Okay, that's fine. Please hand me your personal item so that I can make it disappear and reappear. Okay, let me tell you something. Any magician can do that trick. And that's essentially what they were doing, was a magician's trick. How is this gal going to believe that this actually works if it's a magician's trick, or the fact that it's 1983 special effects or not so special effects? I guess she was just a stupid interviewer, not sure. But anyway. And then finally the collection of people, which I guess we could talk about later, but I guess anytime you have a fun story, you have to have little short people, dwarfs in it for some reason. That's important because they're always a comic relief, and but as you can imagine, they always come up short character-wise. So with that, I'm going to stop. Now, I'm going to go to Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, you've had an opportunity to hear from 5 other people in regards to our fine film. What do you think? Is this one of those on your A-list to watch sometime? And why didn't you watch it this week? There must be a reason. From KE5ICX.
Okay, well, the reason I didn't see this was because I've actually had more than usual going on the last 24 hours as far as I had some company last night, and then today I had an outing for my mom's birthday, and that took all day, and when I got back, it was either watch this wonderful film or listen to TechNet and unwind from the day. So I decided I would just enjoy listening to you guys talk about it, so that is why I didn't see it. It sounds to me like the plot in general was incoherent, and then listening to 5 different versions of people's opinions of why the plot was so incoherent makes it seem probably even more incoherent than it is. So I would say this is not on my A list, but it might be something fun to just put on an afternoon when I don't feel like doing anything and I just want something stupid to watch. So it's kind of on my list for that reason, just because it seems like it would be something just kind of silly and, something where you could, drink a beer and eat popcorn and just kind of goof off with. So it might be something that I could goof off with. And I mean, 2 words, Richard Hatch. And dwarves, that's 3 words. And it seems like in the early 80s, that was a thing. There was like the safety dance video, there was Time Bandits, there was, I'm sure there's something else. So that was just so trendy in 1983, I guess. And Ewoks, Return of the Jedi. Tons of little people were in Ewoks. That's Ewoks. That's all I have to say. In V5F.
Very good. And thank you, Virginia. Yes, I think you nailed it. All the films that you just named have little people in them, and this film should be no exception. Since it was an audience draw back then, it makes perfect sense that they would add a little dwarf. Or more. Very good. Thank you. And musical instruments like a flute or something. I don't know if anybody I saw the Riff Tracks version, but there was a slide whistle in there as well. I think that was a Riff Tracks edition, but I'm not sure. When the little alien people with those flashing helmet things for unknown the guy pushed them off the cliff for no apparent reason. There was a slide whistle when they went down the side of the mountain. I don't know if that was in the actual movie or not. I didn't comment on it because I was watching the Riff Tracks version and I didn't want to get penalized by others who were watching the normal version with regular dialogue. I wanted to pretend that I was suffering with everyone else, and even the Riff Tracks didn't help. But at any rate, the slide whistles, I wonder if that was part of it. Okay, well, this should be interesting. We've got lots of characters. Going back to my wiki here with about 15 different characters that all showed up in it. Now we can talk about characterization. So we will start with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, between your long walks and building stuff and checking your car and probably knocking over 7-Elevens while this movie was playing in the background, what did you think of characterization from KE5ICX?
Well, truth be told, not much. One of the disadvantages of an incoherent plot is that people's behavior often doesn't seem to make much sense either. There was, certainly the exciting male chauvinism and people randomly falling in love on very short acquaintance. I do like when I truly trash a movie like this one, which again, just hated it. I'd like to suggest an alternate, and it's usually another movie or book. If you want to read just a silly story about someone who accidentally goes through a machine that puts them in a parallel universe with different technology, The Practice Effect by author David Brin. It's an old sort of pulp fiction novel that is actually kind of like this, and even with its sort of picaresque episodic plot, but it's fun and it's coherent and people kind of make sense. So The Practice Effect is the silly substitute for this silly movie. Other than that, really, perhaps someone will think of something deep and insightful to say, but not me tonight. NT5 to you.
All right, thank you, Tony. I kind of figured that might happen. And thank you for offering us something that's a little better and more entertaining, the practice effect. I'll go look and see if it's pulp fiction of some sort, and it's probably available online for free. I will check into it. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, you went into in-depth on characters before. Please give us your insights into our critical characters and our ancillary characters from the wonderful film Prisoners of the Lost Universe from 1983 with Richard Hatch.
This is WB50ZL. Well, I was a big fan of the original Battlestar Galactica, and where Richard Hatch played pilot Apollo. Time that he was such a lousy actor, but boy, you sure see it in this movie. He is not a particularly good actor. I just almost, but he kept really wanting to do other projects. I guess they all do. If you want to be an actor, that's what you do. I saw him at a convention one time, and he was desperately trying to revive Battlestar Galactica. Somebody had made a little short film to pitch their idea. But anyway, this didn't do him any favors. And Kay Lynn, I guess Farrah Fawcett wasn't available. That's why they used her. I mean, I didn't think she was a particularly good actress either. John Saxon is, of course, a consummate actor. He's so unlikable in this movie. A lot of assorted losers and crazies and such. But that's what moves the story along. They're all trying to kill you, and so it helps the story. Most of the characters were not terribly believable. It's just sort of a comic book. All right, back to that, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And we are talking about Prisoners of the Lost Universe from 1983. Next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on characterizations for our fine film this week from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. Sorry, I'm trying to just sound a little bit more, I don't know, something novel. I just have a drawing blank here. I don't know necessarily that. Let's put it this way. I think that the group of characters was, it kind of follows some standard tropes. If you dig through, I mean, I didn't even think about this watching the film, or after watching the film, I guess clearly because I didn't really, I actually actively didn't want to remember now that I think about it. But honestly, the characters do follow certain tropes that, I mean, a lot of actually decent stories have. It's just the fact that because so many things don't really have consequences in the film, it's hard to really care about anything. I mean, yeah, the characters, they get wounded or whatever, and but still return or whatnot, and when they get on the so-called good side and bad side, Really hard. It's like Tony said. It's really hard to talk about characters when the story is just not coherent. It's just no. I feel like coherent is not enough of a word to describe this film. There needs to be a special word that probably already exists, and just it's not popping up in my mind here to describe it, but it's just not there. So yeah, I don't think any of the actors played their parts bad or anything. I thought for what was given, well, no, I take that back. There was some bad acting in parts, but especially the group of people that short guy was a part of, they're his friends. That there's just a lot that was not really thought out about certain things. But anyway, I thought the guy who acted as the short person that was friend / enemy / friend again, and others, they did what they could. I won't say it was great acting. In fact, I don't know if there was really a good instance of great acting here. It was all kind of okay. I got nothing. KG5 BCW.
Oh, that's okay, Jay. To be honest with you, there's not a lot to be had out of this film. So coming up empty is not something to be ashamed of. It's to be relished, because in the end, if you try and make something out of nothing, all it does is show you that the desperation you have and the need for friendship. But the thing is that if you just simply state, I got nothing, like you did, you're showing the true mettle of a man. And in this case, this movie sucks from beginning to end, and you might as well just call it what it is, a sucky movie, because that's what it is, a sucky movie. Okay, Virginia, I'm going to come back to you in a little bit. Next is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization. There were so many fascinating characters we met in this film. Which one did you like the most? From KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, my favorite characters were probably the ones that didn't speak. That tells you anything. Yeah, 15 characters were listed. Oh, wow. Yeah, I can't think of 15 different unique characters that were in this. Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with Richard Hatch's performance in this one. I know I've seen him in a few odd things over the years, because I know he did some other TV other than Battlestar Galactica. But yeah, this just seemed bad. I mean, it was bad writing, of course, for all of them. But yeah, I was surprised. It just seemed very, I don't know, it was just not good acting on his part. I liked him too as Apollo back in the original Battlestar, but maybe that's just because it's been years since I watched it. It wasn't his best, that's for sure. Yeah, he was just a typical, well, honestly, he wasn't being a very nice guy at the beginning. And then all at once he became this action hero out of nowhere, and apparently a pair of channel locks was, his savior. That was his without that he couldn't do his job. So he was upset when he lost his channel locks. So most of this is just due to bad writing. The girl, I can't think of her name off the top of my head. Seems like I do remember seeing her in a few films in that era, in the 80s, a few TV shows. And, Yeah, I guess she did okay, but once again, it was just, they clearly didn't write her as a very intelligent person. You know, supposedly she was this host of the science fiction, or not science fiction, actual science show. They kind of insinuate where they showed you how the science works. And yeah, I agree with you, Tom. How did she fall for this, or why would she believe this was a real, you know, matter of transport, especially, you know, in the 80s when our technology wasn't even, you know, we can't do that today even. So, I mean, why she would thought that, yeah, that was surprising. Then her decisions just didn't get any better in this. And yeah, Saxton, the bad guy, you know, actually I think his acting was probably the strongest. Of course, his character wasn't likable in any way, shape, or form. He was just a barbarian. But I guess he played it well. He's probably one of the stronger actors. I thought the actor did the green guy was okay, but he didn't really speak. He's always monotone, which I think was intentional. I don't know what his deal was. He was supposed to be some kind of special, almost like a Jedi or something, I guess. He could sense water in the ground. He could talk to animals. You know, so he just had all these magical powers. Plus, apparently, he understood science as well, and it built a gas-powered dart gun. So, yeah, it's just a very weird character. And, of course, we had our true caveman-like character, which turned out to be probably the real hero. He's obviously, after the girl saved him, he saved her multiple times in this film. Once again, he didn't speak, so, well, I guess he did, but it was only a language that the green guy could understand. Yeah, it was just unfortunate, a lot of poor writing, you know, and the actors, I think for the most part, just worked with what they had. I'm sure most of them don't like to admit to being in this movie, but as I said before, it's not the worst thing we've ever seen, so, but it's definitely up there as far as pretty bad. Just as a side note, I don't know if you know, I've only been part of the group about 2 years, but the other day I had somebody suggest to me the Star Trek Continues series that was done. I don't know if you guys have ever reviewed any of those episodes or not. I found it on YouTube, and I decided not to watch it just in case to see if this was something the group wanted to watch. I'm sure most of you being Star Trek fans have probably already watched these, but somehow or another I missed these. So I'm just curious. They gave a really good review. So anyway, back to that. KB9SOK.
Very good, thank you, Sean. Yes, I have watched Star Trek Continues and what's the other one? Star Trek New Voyages. They are both fan-produced series that were done about 10 years ago now, I think it's been. And they're both pretty good. When you watch them, you know it's amateur productions here and there. But the special effects live up nicely because we had computers to regenerate all that stuff. And so the sets are quite amazing. They go back to the 1960s sensibilities, which is probably why they can get away with it. And then with all the LCD screens in that, they were able to very convincingly create the bridge in the Enterprise using that, rather than all the stuff that they did back in the 60s where they had to, you know, manually build all that. They can do it all with LCD screens to make it look good. Sets and everything are quite good. My favorite episode, I think, from the Star Trek Continues was the Mirror Darkly episode. It was a sequel to the Mirror Mirror episode by Jerome Bixby, which I thought they did a nice job. They have Kirk return to the alternate universe as the evil Kirk, Pirate Kirk, whatever you want to call him, and he takes control of the ship and does a sort of a Mutiny on the Bounty thing is really the story that they kind of pull from that, which I thought was really well done. I rather enjoyed it quite a bit. That's the Star Trek Continuous one. But I digress. Let's see here. I'll go ahead and ask if anyone would like to join us this evening who has not checked in so far. If you would like to, you don't have to necessarily have seen our fine film for this week, but if you just want to say you're out there, that would be nice. Please come to your call now. Okay, I suspected as much, so let me give you my take on the characterizations. Richard Hatch plays, I don't know, the construction worker from the Village People. If he could sing, I could give him an overall, you know, rating as far as being the construction worker. And whether he could sing songs or not. But, it's just sort of one of those things. He was serviceable through this whole thing, I guess. It wasn't, his acting is not the world's greatest. But I will tell you one thing. Now, he did appear, and I'm going to say this because I don't have a lot to say about the characterization, so it's just some comments about the actor, which also falls into it. He was in, I met him a few years before his death. He died in 2017, I think. He had pancreatic cancer. But he was at a convention, I think it was up in Columbus, Ohio, where I saw him. But he was talking about a revival series for Galactica because he wanted to come back and play that role as the main character again. He even got some of the same people back together, John Colicos, Terry Carter, and Jack Stolfer. Those three people, Colicos as Baltar, Terry Carter as Colonel Pi, you may remember that. But it ended up a few years later, he was in Battlestar Galactica, the sci-fi series, which was a reboot, and he played a different character in that. The character he played was Tom Zarek, a terrorist-turned-politician who spent 20 years in prison for blowing up a government building. After Zarek's death, Hatch commented, never did I play this character as a villain, nor did I think he was one. I still feel that way. Zarek, Adama, and Rosalind all wanted power for the same reason, to make a positive difference. I thought he did a really great job in that character. So for me, I think he's just had some pretty terrible direction and maybe some terrible things he's been in. Now, of course, this is fast forward 20-plus years later, and he's playing a much older, more wiser character, and he's an older and probably wiser actor. And I thought he was really very good in that role. So there you have it, a couple of comments about him as the actor. Now, John Saxon, he plays John Saxon and everything. The Cleo character is, bad guy, but not a really bad guy. How could you say I'm as human as a person next to you? But if you don't follow what I tell you to do, I'm going to put you in the cage and you will not be able to eat or drink anything until you come back to me begging. So he's just an ordinary... I enjoy Saxon playing Saxon, which is what he always does. But, his acting skills, he's also gone now, but his acting skills went from A to B. But he played the A to B characters very well, the heavies, extremely well. My other so-called favorite character, for reasons unknown, is the very sparsely referenced Dr. Hartman. I don't know who this guy was, but I liked his voice. He was, as a scientist, he was kind of weird and creepy type of thing, but they didn't really use him. I think he probably might have been cast as the heavy first before he got the mad scientist role, and then when they got John Saxon, they just moved him over to this minor role. That's just a guess on my part, because his voice was so distinctive. He seemed like he'd make a really good bad guy, or a bad good guy, or something like that, or a bad, good guy. At any rate, there you have it. There was the man-beast. Apparently that's the guy who's stuck in the tar pit and pulled the thorn out of his paw. Pulled him, what's her name? Carrie pulled him out of the tar pit, and he went around knocking people off that were trying to attack Carrie. He was a great guy. And then the water beast, which I didn't see because I went to bed, apparently was a different character. But you've got a man beast and a water beast, and that's great, I guess. I don't know which one was the midget. I think that was Larry Taylor. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. But the rest of the characters were quite forgettable, and I've already forgotten them, and I don't know who did what, where, or why. And they probably feel the same way. So with that, I'm not going to say much more about characterization. Now, I do have a little bit of exciting information for all of you. This movie is available to download for free. You do not have to go and find a VHS copy at Walmart over in the back of the store near the bathrooms. You can get it at archive.org, absolutely free. The blurry and special VHS version is available there for simple download. Okay, with that, let me see. What do I ask Virginia? Oh, I know what I wanted to ask Virginia. Virginia, what was your favorite Richard Hatch movie or characterization, or John Saxon, who has appeared in over 50 films, 50 of them, or is there someone else in our fine cast that you would like to discuss, even though you didn't see the movie, from KE5ICX?
Wow, way to put me on the spot. I really can't honestly say that I have watched enough of either of their fine films or shows. I have a vague recollection of the Battlestar Galactica show from the 70s, and just don't have enough knowledge of what I'm sure I've seen them in other things, you know, over the years, but I'm not one of the people who is good with remembering actors and everything they were in. So I couldn't say, but the interesting variety of characters that you recalled versus the very forgettable ones was enough to make me even more curious about this movie. And I will say that you know, just you talking about Richard Hatch in the new Battlestar Galactica, it's not enough to make me want to see the new one, because I think I watched the pilot episode of it when it first came out, and it was a little bit on the dark side for me. It was a little bit disturbing in places. So I will admit that I have not watched through that. So I'm sorry I can't aptly answer your question. I guess I could have jumped on IMDb while I was stalling just now and pulled up a filmography and just, you know, thrown something out there at you, but I will honestly say I don't know, and I'm too tired to, you know, try to fake it. So anyway, thank you for asking, and I appreciate you giving me some role in tonight's proceedings in V5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. And yes, that's exactly what I was expecting you to do, to go to the Internet Movie Database and find something and just say, yes, I saw him in, I don't know, whatever, some movie. I can't think of any of the movies he was in either, but he's been a bazillion of them. John Saxon, we'll talk about him first. He's a guy, he's martial, or he was a martial arts guy. So I remember him doing like an infomercial for an hour talking about it. He's in his white jiu-jitsu outfit, trying to sell these VHS videos with other people who do jiu-jitsu or whatever it was he was doing, whatever the martial art was, and kind of the spokesman while they went through. But he was all dressed up in the thing and did a few moves to his public so that they would join him in the excitement of martial arts. But he would do those things. He was kind of that guy, but as I mentioned, he pretty much acted the same way he always did. The Richard Hatch, of course, as I've already mentioned, I thought he was only in a handful of films, maybe 6 or 7 actual films, mostly minor characters except for Battlestar Galactica itself. And he was in a soap opera, I forget, daytime soap opera, so his good looks back then counted. That's probably why he was cast for Battlestar Galactica back in, 78, I think it was. So, there you have it. What else do I want to say? I guess that was it. I had something else I was going to say about all that. I can't remember what it was. Maybe I'll come back to it. Okay. To keep people happy and the fact that this is another one of those fine films, I'm going to go ahead and ask on the round 3 If you have anything you would like to bring on special effects, music, or anything like that, I'll go ahead and take a separate check-in for that. Or if you have something you want to say about special effects or anything that you would like as a parting comment for tonight's net, please come now with your call sign. Okay, I kind of suspected that might be the case. I think we were kind of drawing this one out quite a bit, so I gave you the option of having an opportunity to speak or going to bed earlier tonight. So hold on for a moment and let me go ahead and bring up what next week's movie is, and we will close the net out. Please stand by. Oh, dear God. I remember what I was going to say, but I'll come back to it in just a second. Next week's movie is 1979's Meteor with Sean Connery and some other people we've forgotten. So this should be a fine disaster film, very popular back in 1979. I think it even had sense surround in it and explosions and things too, just like Earthquake did. What's the story? It says here, an American scientist learns that a huge meteor is hurtling towards Earth, and the only way to stop it is to share nuclear secrets with the USSR. Sound familiar? Yes, you've heard this story before, and it's been done since. But this one has Sean Connery in it, not John Saxon, so we don't get the stunt double. We get the original guy, with a nice toupee, by the way, and a pencil-thin mustache. It also has, Richard Dysart in it, Henry Fonda, I'm sure, as the president, Trevor Howard, Brian Keith, Martin Landau, Carl Malden, and Natalie Wood. And don't forget, Joseph Campanella. This is an all-star cast in a disaster film of the first caliber from 1979. So there you have it. By the way, coming up in November, yes, so we're going into October, a little over a month away. I will need someone to take over Skynet for me completely as a net control. I think it's November 4th. I'll have to go back and look at the dates. At any rate, the first week in November for that Saturday, I will be out of town. And one of those rare times. So if you would think about that, I may give you a call, see, as well as this net that evening. So keep that in mind. I will be out of town, so I won't be able to do it live on this repeater. I can do it through Echolink, but I think that might be a little difficult. But we'll see. So with that, I want to say thank you to everyone who checked in this evening. I will post this movie information over on email. I was going to check and tell you what the group was. Hold on. Okay, the chat group is called Afterglow Gang. Afterglow is one word followed by gang. So if you want to join us there, or if you want to just get on the chat that's on the Facebook page for Afterglow Movie, just go there and go into the chat and say you want to join the group. You can't remember what it is. We do Afterglow Gang. I don't put it on the main one because I don't want to bother people with it. It's just for folks that want to discuss the movie in real time, Afterglow Gang. And it's always at 8 o'clock on Friday evenings. So that's the reason why it's kind of not super published or anything. It is listed and linked inside of the Facebook page, but it's not always obvious to people who visit. So just look for it there, or just get on the chat for the Afterglow Movie and say you want to join the gang, and we'll add you manually at that point, and then you can join us. And you can always drop out at any time that you want. We have a lot of fun on Friday nights discussing the films. So it's from 8 until 10 on Friday evenings. With that, I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Have a great evening. Have a great week. Have a great Sunday. And we'll catch you again next week. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear. Bye-bye and bye-bye.